Trump tried to send a U.S. Navy destroyer through the Strait of Hormuz during the negotiations in Pakistan. Iran said they didn't care about negotiations and would blow the ship up. Trump then ordered the ship to turn around and go back to the UAE. Pathetic failure. If there's one thing that pisses Donald Trump off more than just about anything else right now, I think it's the fact that he understands before this war began, he had full control, effectively, of the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, it was open territory for all to use, free to use, no problems. And now, after the war, he's in a worse off situation. Now, that could be said for virtually every single negotiating point that Trump was pressuring the Iranians on before this war began. The Iranians are now in a much stronger position. And that is very, very clearly laid out in the first two rounds of negotiations, which took place today. I mean, before the war, the U.S. was making all these maximalist demands of the Iranians. You need to give up your uranium enrichment, no more uranium, no more ballistic missile program. Now the U.S. is smart enough not even to make any demands about the uranium or ballistic missile programs. And they're promising to release $6 billion in frozen Iranian funds. The big sticker, though, is still the Strait of Hormuz. Just 2 days ago, Iran's Ayatollah Mojtaba Khamenei came out and said that the Strait of Hormuz will be under new management. Couldn't have said it better myself. Very to the point. But Trump is not so keen on this idea, if you can imagine. There are still hundreds of ships that remain stuck near the Strait of Hormuz, including 426 oil tankers and 53 gas tankers. That was as of 2 days ago. And the situation has gotten a little bit better since then. Iran will not allow more than 15 ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz per day during the quote-unquote ceasefire. In other words, oil prices will continue to be high. Maybe they'll drop a little bit, but they won't be high, right? Or they won't be as high. So the Iranians understand that this is their nuclear weapon in effect. If they don't have a nuclear weapon, this is their nuclear weapon. And the difference between a nuclear weapon and the Strait of Hormuz is it doesn't invite the same sort of a reciprocal attack against you if you decide to leverage your use of force. And number two, the shelf life of pressure on the Strait of Hormuz is indefinite. It lasts forever, unlike uranium. Now, we have been seeing some ships pass through the Strait of Hormuz. We've seen, of course, over the past 24 hours, so from the 9th to the 10th, only 7 tankers passed through the Strait of Hormuz, 3 of which were Iranian-linked vessels. Before the war, 140 tankers passed through the Strait of Hormuz daily. On the first day of the ceasefire, we saw the lowest amount of vessels cross through the Strait of Hormuz at any point since the start of the month. We also saw a giant oil tanker flying the Russian flag cross the Strait of Hormuz yesterday evening. And also 2 Chinese oil tankers passed through the Strait of Hormuz with Iranian approval. But I say this is kind of a moot point because, 80% of Iran's oil exports go to China. So basically, 80% of Iranian oil tankers are technically Chinese oil tankers. So basically, a lot of Chinese destined oil is making its way through the Strait of Hormuz still, which is being bought in the petro yuan. The U.S., not looking so good. Trump came out late yesterday and said that there are reports that Iran is charging fees to tankers going through the Hormuz Strait. They better not be, and if they are, they better stop now. He's actually stupid. He's actually really stupid and has no idea what it's going. I hesitate to believe these stupid stories that Trump wakes up every morning and judges how the war is going by getting handed a phone with probably an iPad with TikTok videos playing of U.S. strikes on Iranian decoy fighter jets and Iranian decoy warships. But judging by his statements, I would actually totally not be surprised if that's the truth of the situation. Okay, how could you possibly be saying Iran better not be charging tolls on the Strait of Hormuz? Like, they've been quite clear every day of this conflict, multiple times throughout the day, that this is exactly what is going to be the protocol that governs the Strait of Hormuz moving forward. It has been reported that Iran is charging $2 million for every single ship that has passed through the Strait of Hormuz since the start of this conflict from the unfriendly nations, I'd imagine only. $2 million. They've also announced that moving forward, there's going to be a tax of $1 on every single barrel of oil that crosses through the strait after the war comes to a close. But I'm assuming that while the war is ongoing, the prices are going to be much higher, okay? Trump came out and made this statement yesterday. Actually, this was today. So this is what Trump had to say about the Strait of Hormuz today, if you can believe it.
Militarily defeated, and now we're going to open up the Gulf with or without them. But that'll be open. We're going to be, or the Strait as they call it. And I think it's going to go pretty quickly. And if it doesn't, we'll be able to finish it off. One way or the other, it's going well. The Navy's gone. The Air Force is gone. All anti-aircraft is gone. The leaders are gone. The whole place is gone. So we'll see how it turns out. So it's JD, it's Steve, and Jared. You have a good team, and they meet tomorrow. We'll see how it all works out.
You're not going to let them pull the strait, are you? It's international.
No, we're not going to let that. It's international water. If they're doing that, nobody knows if they're doing that. But if they're doing that, we're not going to let that happen.
What would a good deal look like for you?
No nuclear weapon, number one. You know, I think it's already been regime change, but we never had that as a criteria. No nuclear weapon. That's 99% of us.
So multiple funny things to point out there. No nuclear weapon. That's 99% of it. Well, no, I mean, in the opening negotiations before the war began, you were saying no uranium enrichment. You were saying they have to get rid of their ballistic missile program. You were saying that they have to, what else were they saying? Of course, regime change, you know, of course. They wanted like Pahlavi to come in and fly into Tehran. Regime change was obviously part of this. Behind the scenes, there were many goals. Behind the scenes, they wanted, you know, the Kurds, and they wanted Baluchistan province to fight and do internal proxy conflicts and balkanize Iran into a bunch of smaller states. They wanted to cut Iran off in their southeast from the borders of Pakistan and Afghanistan on the Baluchistani border. Yeah, so there was a lot going on here that they aimed to accomplish, all of which has failed. I mean, we already got regime change, buddy. You replaced Khamenei with Khamenei. That's like fighting for 20 years in Afghanistan and replacing the Taliban with the Taliban. You didn't do if anything, and the Israelis are even saying this, they have a more hostile government in place in Iran now, which, what did you expect? Mojtaba Khamenei is the Ayatollah now. And you murdered his sister, brother, kids, father, mother, literally everyone who was around him, even tangentially around him and like a distant relative of him. They murdered literally everyone. They murdered his wife. They murdered everyone. So on a personal level, what do you expect? Now, we can, of course, leave aside, just looking at that, we can leave aside the fact that Iran is winning, that you killed the beloved leader of a nation of 90 million, that they're more unified than ever before, that they're winning, that all your bases got practically destroyed in the region. Okay, I'm getting too much into this, but you understand how insane this is, right? Now, he said, we won't let Iran keep the Strait of Hormuz closed. We're not going to let them charge a toll. No one knows that they're charging a toll. Yes, we do. And also, he said that we're going to open up the strait very soon. You'll all see. Now, they tried to do that today. They tried to open up the Strait of Hormuz today. And despite the initial reports from Axios, Israeli propaganda outlet Axios, despite the reports of success, the operation to open up the Strait of Hormuz went about as well as the failed uranium heist in Isfahan, Iran, which resulted in several U.S. military aircraft, C-130s, as well as Little Bird helicopters and other helicopters, getting torn apart by U.S. military aircraft as they had to evacuate and burn their planes into pieces of ash and dust after trying to raid the Isfahan nuclear program for the enriched uranium. Okay, so this is how it went, folks. Axios reported this afternoon, Tehran time, that U.S. warships crossed the Strait of Hormuz for the first time since the Iran war began. This was crazy. The negotiations were ongoing. The U.S. and the Iranians were having, very complex discussions through Pakistani mediators, and we got this news headline: U.S. warships crossed Strait of Hormuz for the first time since the Iran war began. And it was reported that, this took place without the cooperation, without the approval of the Iranian Navy or any Iranian government apparatus. This was really, really bad news for the Iranians, if I'm being honest. This made them look absolutely weak and embarrassing, to be honest with you. But what if I told you that this story was actually a bunch of BS and this didn't happen? Would you be surprised? Well, the story is from Axios, Israeli propaganda, so you should not be surprised. I'm now going to tell you exactly what actually happened today. Iran blocked the U.S. Navy destroyers from exiting the Strait of Hormuz. A U.S. Navy destroyer departed from the UAE heading toward the Strait of Hormuz. Iran issued a strong warning: if the destroyer continued, it would be targeted within 30 minutes, and Iran-U.S. negotiations would be effectively ended. Thanks to the firm response from Iran's armed forces, the U.S. ordered the ship to stop. So basically, Trump sent a U.S. Navy warship to try and run the blockade that Iran had established in the Strait of Hormuz. He said, earlier today, we're going to open up the Strait of Hormuz. We're going to open up the Persian Gulf. And he had Israeli propaganda outlet Axios announce victory, that they successfully ran the blockade before the operation had even concluded, before the warships had even passed. And then Iran threatened to blow up these warships into a million pieces and sink them to the bottom of the sea, prompting the U.S. to immediately stop and turn around. Priceless. Couldn't even make a movie this good. I mean, it's just, I don't know what world Trump is living on. I don't know how you could watch all the U.S. military bases much further away than where this ship is currently sailing through in the Strait of Hormuz get absolutely obliterated, turned into construction sites, leveled into parking lots, and somehow think to yourself, well, the Strait of Hormuz is much closer to Iran. Surely we can send a warship through there, right? Let's do it. Let's just send a warship through the Strait of Hormuz. Trump tried to send a U.S. Navy destroyer through the Strait of Hormuz during the negotiations in Pakistan. Iran said they didn't care about negotiations and would blow the ship up. Trump then ordered the ship to turn around and go back to the UAE. Pathetic failure. Pathetic failure. Iranian security official told Al Mayadeen that yes, the U.S. failed to run the blockade. They aimed to create unrealistic achievements in the media to promote imaginary victories. The American ship faced a complete encirclement and a firm warning from Iranian forces, which forced it to return and change course. Now, this was the best propaganda point of all throughout the hours that this story was unfolding. Axios, after claiming, success and victory for the U.S. in breaking the blockade, after it came out that it actually failed and the ship had to stop and turn around, Axios came out and said U.S. warships transited the Strait of Hormuz in both directions. Both directions, meaning they approached the Strait of Hormuz, stopped, and then turned around. It's incredible. It's incredible, but Axios really does believe that you are that stupid. Axios does believe that you'll actually fall for this and just not question what's going on. Or maybe it's not even about you. Maybe it's just about they think that, I don't know, that the markets will fall for this stupid story or something. I don't know. But I guess they do believe that you'll fall for this. Basically like saying, no, our forces aren't retreating. They're advancing toward the rear. Our forces are not retreating. They're just advancing in reverse. That's what's going on here. So Bloomberg added to the story, added to the failure, and said that the ships were actually forced to stop and turn back after Iran launched a drone, an attack drone, toward the ships and threatened to blow them up. So either way you spin this, it's not looking good. Obviously, the negotiations currently are in their third round. They are in a deadlock as we sit here and speak because of the simple fact that the U.S. is refusing to allow Iran to continue with their control over the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. is demanding that the Iranians, I guess, share some joint control over the Strait of Hormuz with the United States. For what reason, I don't know. Here's why that's never going to happen. Take a listen.
And the fact is, we can't win a war of attrition. It's just not possible. Let me just give you 6 points that illustrate that. Think about this very powerful Navy that we have that President Trump talks about using to open the Straits of Hormuz. We can't put that Navy anywhere near Iran, certainly anywhere near the Strait of Hormuz, for fear that it'll get sunk to the bottom of the Jolly Roger by either Iranian cruise missiles or Iranian drones. You understand that the Navy is parked far away from Iran and not, therefore, very useful. Bases. We had 13 bases in the region, 13 major bases in the region. The New York Times has reported that of those 13 bases, all of them are either badly damaged or destroyed. In terms of ground forces, a ground invasion, people in the media talk about 40 or 50,000 troops being located in the Middle East, and this implies that these are 40 or 50,000 combat troops. That's simply not true. You need infantry divisions or Marine brigades or whatever to wage combat, ground combat against Iran. And President Trump has only recently moved 7,000 combat troops into the region. 7,000 combat troops. You could do hardly anything with 7,000 combat troops.
Turns out trying to play chess with the civilization that invented chess doesn't end well. Before you leave, I want to say thank you for the support, because after 2 years of being banned, we are finally back home on YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to our channel and also join as a member on our channel using the link at the top of the description. I rely on the generous support of viewers like yourself to get the truth out to as many people as possible. You can also support the show on Locals or Give Sin Go. The mainstream media and the powers that be are never going to stop attacking us for bringing the truth to as many people as we do. Thank you so much for your support.